Just who is Positively Caroline and why is she so positive? Let's see what we can find out. Hi there, Michelle here from McQuaid TV. We're helping you find ways to move from functioning to flourishing by putting the latest science to the real-world test. To help us today, I'm privileged to introduce you to Caroline Adams-Miller, a well-known coach, author, speaker and educator in the fields of empowerment, change, well-being and goal accomplishment. Caroline's often in the media and has appeared in TV, radio and magazine stories. Her fifth book, no less, Creating Your Best Life, was the first book to bring together the science of happiness and the science of goal setting. Her newest book, Positively Caroline, is a sequel to the best-selling My Name is Caroline, which was the first major autobiography of a bulimia survivor. Positively Caroline picks up where the last book ended and is a detailed look at how the science of flourishing can help others with long-term addiction recovery. Welcome, Caroline.
Hi, Michelle.
Caroline, I loved reading this book. It was such an honest and vulnerable account of how life can be. Tell us what inspired you to write it and what are you hoping others will take from it?
Oh, Michelle, there's so much here, and thank you for having the interest in the topic, because it's a little bit offbeat and a little bit away from what positive psychologists can be known for, or applied positive psychologists. But I wrote the book because ever since My Name is Caroline came out in 1988, which was the first major autobiography by anyone who had ever recovered from the eating disorder called bulimia, I have gotten probably several 100,000 emails, phone calls, letters. It's been astounding on multiple levels. People saying, not only thank you for writing the book, it gave me hope, it gave me the courage to come out, tell people what I'm dealing with. But more importantly, people wanted to know what happened after the book. And so for decades, I've been really thinking about, well, when or if would it be appropriate to answer those questions? And as 25 years came by, I began to see, it's time to answer those questions because I weathered a lot of other challenges. And I wanted to tell that story, but after the MAP program, which we shared at the University of Pennsylvania, I realized that I had a new language to talk about in terms of recovery. And so I answer a lot of reader questions, but I break new ground in terms of how can the science of happiness help people with addiction recovery? And I think there's a lot to say about that hasn't been said yet.
With all of that unfolding in your life, what was the positive psychology intervention, tool or approach that you think had the biggest impact on your journey and why?
That's such a good question because no one's ever really asked me that. I have been in 12-step programs for many years for several different things, and there are a lot of slogans that go into these programs that allow people to make attitude adjustments. And one of the first things you hear about is having an attitude of gratitude. People who are struggling with addictions often feel the world revolves around them and their misery. And so when you enter programs where you see and hear other people recovering from similar issues, you begin to develop gratitude that you're there and that you have one more day to try to pull it together. And so in hindsight, without knowing it, it really was gratitude. And when I got to Penn, and one of the first things Marty Seligman says was that the happiest people also score highest in gratitude. I began to think on two tracks. That entire year I didn't expect this. I started to think, wow, that's a piece of why I got better and stayed better. Because I'm not supposed to exist. The statistics for women who have recovered and stayed in recovery from an eating disorder are frighteningly low. And so another reason why I wrote this book is I wanted people to see that people get better and stay better. Yeah. And here's how you do it. And gratitude, I think, that I was alive, that I had the resources and the relationships that I built to get better, it saved my life. Yeah. And so I'm going to just go with gratitude.
Did you have specific daily practices for gratitude, like the infamous counting your blessings, or was it a more general attitude that you embraced, or perhaps even both?
Good question. There were a lot of things that I began to do differently that in hindsight I can give positive psychology terminology. One of the first things is journaling. I began to try to make meaning of my life. Why was I in this situation at 21 when I'd had everything? I had a great, education. I'd gone to Harvard, and yet even at Harvard, I was surrounded by women just like me who, quote unquote, had it all but didn't really have what mattered. And that was authentic well-being, happiness, emotional flourishing, the tools to build and maintain relationships and see other people for what you can give them, not just what they can give you. It's not about the next grade or the next SAT thing or the next prop to help you get somewhere. And so there was journaling, there was gratitude. When you begin to sponsor people, that's about giving back. And I think that's the altruistic piece. And it's really important to not just take help in these rooms. It's about giving back, and that's the last step to carry the message to those who still suffer. And I've really tried to do that. And so the gratitude, I think there's a gratitude set of sayings that you hear a lot, and I think it just became a piece of who I was. But it's only been amplified since Penn, so I can say it reinforced a lot of what kept me alive and gave me the gift of life on a day-to-day basis.
In addition to the story of recovery from addiction, which I highly recommend for anyone going through that situation, or if you have someone you love in it, what really resonated for me in the book was what you just touched on, about being at Harvard, having it all, and still not really feeling happy. And I think so many of us from time to time find ourselves in that kind of situation. And I loved in the book you identified the problem with being the best is that no matter who you are, it never really lasts. And one of your counsellors challenging you about who are you if you're not achieving something or proving your financial worth. And I wondered how you came to peace with this part of your journey.
And it's a excuse me, it's a process, and I think it's a process of peeling back the layers of an onion, which is a trite analogy, but I think that's what I kept coming back to, or as one person I worked with said, it was like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. And I would just keep going around and looking out the same, the window, but at different heights. And then I would be having a different vantage point. So I think it was about really hard work and facing a lot of things that I hadn't wanted to face. And one was, you need to build relationships, and you can't take for granted that you will always have, let's say, your family in your corner. And in my case, I had a very rough situation that really never got resolved, and still is not resolved, but I'm at peace with it only because I've accepted that the people who love and care about me are the ones I choose to have in my life. And so at Penn, my goodness, it's about building and maintaining relationships. And in life, it's not about what people give to you, it's about what you bring to the table. So I really began to work on that. And instead of seeing myself as a constant fix-it project, because I think I felt so broken for so long, or like I said in the book, a billboard. If you looked at me, I was pleasant and I had these nice little accolades. But behind the billboard, there wasn't anything there. There wasn't any substance. I didn't know who I was. I didn't even know what to wear because I'd been dressed in uniforms all my life. Or I'd been a competitive swimmer. What do you do when you're not winning medals? And so the strengths-based focus we get in positive psychology, I applied to my life, and I said, well, who am I and what am I good at? And then what is my purpose? And like so many women in so many cultures around the world, I really had to grapple with who am I? Am I a mother? If I'm going to be a mother, am I going to continue to work? If so, what is my gift? And how do I balance these competing interests? And what is happiness? And so I'm very familiar, and I think we all are aware of the statistics that middle-aged women really crater in all cultures because this is such a tough thing to reconcile. So the book talks about how I went through that journey, and I hope it gives some hope or light to other people who might be struggling in the same ways.
Well, as part of that target market, I can tell you it definitely brought me some hope. Now, these days, you're a world-renowned coach who uses positive psychology to help people around the globe move from functioning to flourishing. So what's one of the exercises you most recommend your clients start with?
Well, I think just to back it up, so I've written all these books, but Creating Your Best Life was my capstone at Penn, and it was really about the science of setting massive goals and how do you then achieve them and make sure that those are intrinsically motivated goals that bring you authentic joy. So that was a struggle in my personal life, but then I wrote about how do you do that. So what I get are clients, whether they're male or female, who are also trying to figure out where are the risks I need to take in life so that I don't live with regrets? One of my favorite tools is Best Possible Future Self. I find that it clarifies so many conflicts that we have that we're not aware of. So there's this condition in goal setting called goals in conflict. And many, many people don't even know they have goals in conflict until they spin themselves into the future and say, gosh, if everything went as well as possible in 10 years, who would I be? If failure was not an option, what would I be doing? And so every day, from 12 different time zones, I talk to clients who are heads of companies. They're men and women doing all kinds of things in life, but that is how people find me. That is the crux of why people seek me out. And just to go back to my eating disorder, I became fascinated by why did I save my life and how did I do it? Because that's what brought me joy. And then how can I help other people select other goals and accomplish the same satisfying outcome? So Best Possible Future Self, risk-taking, the science of regrets. I love hope theory because what I hope my books have done is give people hope. And that's the motivation that's run through it. Not look at me and read about me. It's please have some hope, because for years I was hopeless. And when I had hope, the whole world changed for me.
Best Possible Future Self is one of my favourites as well, and I know you have a great sheet on your website which we'll include as a link below this video with step-by-step instructions for people who might want to try this exercise at home. Thank you so much for joining us today, Caroline.
And thank you for having me from across the globe.
Our pleasure. I highly recommend Positively Caroline to anyone who wants to learn more about the science of flourishing and practical ways to use it in the lows and highs that we all experience from time to time. You'll find it on Amazon.com or in any good bookstore. And if you want more on Caroline's work, be sure to check out CarolineMiller.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, you are good enough, so don't be afraid to let your light shine. Until next time, take care.